band playing a funeral march. Then came a squad of men with fixed bayonets. The Kaiser walked in the middle, downhearted and very white. Next came stretcher bearers. Gee, but it was a sad procession. They said they caught the Kaiser in back, eating some pretzels. So they stood him up and shot him. They put him on a stretcher then and brought him back with the band playing. Finally, somebody hollered, "Hey, Kaiser, here's a bottle of beer." Then the Kaiser raised up and answered, "Where?" It sure was fun. Charles Bennett, Bugler.
At Camp MacArthur, a division of 28,000 men was organized. It contained 4 infantry regiments of 7,000 men each. The 125th and 126th Infantry Regiments were from Michigan, and the 127th and 128th Infantry Regiments from Wisconsin. 15 companies from southwestern Michigan communities, each of about 300 men, were part of the 126th Infantry, commanded by Colonel Westnedge. The 2 Kalamazoo National Guard companies were then merged into one.
The Guard is the reserve force, the main reserve force or backup for the Army. And it was always looked upon as that secondary force that the governor could call for state emergencies and the federal government could call for full mobilization. Therefore, when they would come on active duty, often they were considered by their regular Army counterparts as not to be as well trained or as well schooled. They also came on active duty with lesser equipment. And for a long time then, it was a situation where the Guard was considered secondary as far as the Army was concerned once they were mobilized.
Generally speaking, the National Guard officers are not the best. General John J. Pershing, Commander-in-Chief, American Expeditionary Forces.
The National Guard officers commanding the other 3 infantry regiments were all relieved of duty. Only Colonel Westnedge was retained.
Colonel Joe, as he is affectionately known, is big and broad and strong and amazingly active for his size. His hair is black and his complexion under the Texas sun is like an Indian's. His eyes are saved by a merry twinkle that takes the edge from a sharp tongue. Camp MacArthur correspondent, Grand Rapids Press.
A regular Army officer, General William G. Hahn, was placed in command of the division designated the 32nd Division.
From the beginning, it was one of my principal functions to keep before the eyes of the officers and men the fact that the 32nd Division was going to fight, that all of our training must be conducted with that end constantly in view. General William G. Hahn.
In early December, the entire division was inspected by the General Staff from Washington, who were making a tour of all divisions to determine the order in which they were to be sent to France. And it was said that the division making the best showing would be the first to go. Captain Gonzer.
Christmas arrived and was celebrated in Camp MacArthur. The regiment's chaplain, Father Dunnigan, held Christmas services.
Toward the latter part of December, the results of the inspection was received in camp, which reported our division as the most advanced in its training and more completely equipped than any other division in the United States. Everyone felt very proud of this report and rejoiced further still when notice was given that we were to be sent to France at the earliest practicable date. Captain Gonzer.
Colonel Westnedge wrote to his mother,
Dear Mother, the time is not far distant when we will be taking our places in the trenches in France. The men have made up their minds to the fact that we must take our part over there and they're getting trained for it like football men. I will be sorry for the Germans when they're up against our men who will fight to a finish.
As 1917 drew to a close, the Allies' situation worsened. The French army mutinied, the British army suffered a severe defeat at Ypres, the Italian army was routed and on the brink of collapse, and Russia quit the war. While Americans hastily prepared, their aid loomed as an increasingly important factor. But would they arrive soon enough to tilt the balance? In January, 61 trains began moving the 32nd Division from Camp MacArthur. Meanwhile, in Kalamazoo, the war effort was strenuously continued.
Kalamazoo restaurants are serving one meatless meal each day by order of the County Food Administrator. Kalamazoo Gazette.
Kalamazoo during World War I was really not too different from other communities across the United States. We went through meatless and wheatless days, as did other communities. We also had to go through coal rationing. There were several different organizations that were created to sort of whip up a patriotic fever. There was the Kalamazoo County Patriotic League that held mass meetings to try to whip up a feeling of patriotism. In the end, over 2,200 men in Kalamazoo County enlisted, and of that number, 114 were killed and did not come back.
You don't like this war a bit. It is on your doorstep. It is at your dinner table. It is nibbling at your pay envelope. It is wholly a calamity, you feel. So then sacrifice as to put an end to it soon. So sacrifice as to make it the last war. Kalamazoo Gazette.
Camp Merritt, New Jersey was the point of embarkment for the 32nd Division. To help guard against the submarine attack, the actual date of departure was kept secret. Out of 80 divisions intended to be shipped overseas, they would be the 6th to leave. A small advance party from the 32nd Division left early aboard the Tuscania.
Rumor has it that Michigan men are next to sail. The National Guard will be sent to France first. Kalamazoo Gazette.
Pandemonium swept Kalamazoo when the Tuscania was torpedoed and sunk. Relatives spent several anxious days before learning that the 126th Infantry had not been aboard.
While at Camp Merritt, news was received of the sinking of the Tuscania by an enemy submarine, and that men of our division had lost their lives. While the troops were eager to go to France to avenge the outrages upon civilization, this news made them more eager than ever. Captain Gonzer.
The 126th Infantry actually boarded another transport.
The Red Cross ladies served us with coffee and a bun before getting on. Our boat's a captured German freighter. It's been renamed the President Grant. The last trip they made, they throwed 9 men overboard that died of pneumonia. Charles Bennett, bugler.
Several other transports were part of the convoy. They were painted in every conceivable fashion and color to make it more difficult for submarines to recognize them. The various schemes were a source of interest and amusement. Captain Gonzer.